Hey everybody, happy Friday, fellow biohackers. I'm excited to chat with Mike, and Mike, I think it would be cool for me to share how I discovered your work in Jaspr. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I lived in a house in Miami with my fiance, this beautiful townhouse that we moved into, we rented, and we took a lot of time getting everything organized, building out a studio for the podcast. And I started to notice that my fiance started to get some symptoms. She started to get some nasal issues,
some migraines. And these were clues to me of mold illness, mold toxicity. Has anybody dealt with mold illness before or known somebody that dealt with it? It's really a hidden disaster, really, and we'll talk a lot about that. But one of the thoughts I had was, we must have mold in this apartment. We live in Florida, very humid environment, Texas as well. So I brought a building biologist over, Ryan Blazer from Test My Home, who's a mutual friend of yours. I didn't know this at the time. And Ryan's doing all his testing, and he's discovering toxic black mold in all the bedrooms, behind the refrigerator, in all the restrooms, in the washer dryer, in the HVAC. We had 2 different HVACs. And it was just a light bulb moment, like, oh my gosh, like if we continue to stay here, first of all, if we didn't know this was going on and continue to stay there, it was just a matter of time before I started getting more symptoms, our cat started getting symptoms. So the first thing I asked him is, okay, Ryan, what should I do? And he said, the first thing you got to do is buy a Jaspr. And I said, what the heck is a Jaspr? And he said, it's the Ferrari of air purifying machines. A gentleman named Mike Feldstein owns the company. He gave me information on it. So I bought 3, like right away, just to deal with that immediate situation. And we ended up getting out of that space and going through a mold detox. And I could tell you this, I've owned other air purifying machines in the past, and I won't name them. This one, it really is the Ferrari or the Porsche or whatever your favorite car of air purifying machines. And he's going to talk a little bit more about why that is. But the Jaspers have made a huge difference in my life with sleeping by my bed. The Jaspr stays right there. There's no EMFs or Bluetooth or anything going on. It doubles as a white noise machine. And thankfully, when we got out of that environment, cleaned our air, because we are what we breathe, you are what you breathe, all the symptoms went away. Our cat got better, our pets got better. So we'll talk a little bit about molds, but that is the backstory on how I discovered Jaspr.
Sweet. So thanks for coming, guys. Basically, the way I think about air is similar to the way you may already think about food and water. It's not so much different, and anyone who's already kind of thinking about the water that they drink and the food that they breathe, it's the exact same thing. Like, nobody would ever go to a pond, fill it up, see a cup of clear water and drink it, thinking that that water is okay and that that water is healthy, because you know there's stuff in that water that could make you very sick. And air is the same. I believe that what air is to humans, water is to fish. And there's a reason that fish stay in very polluted bodies of water for extended periods of time. They don't swim away to the less polluted water because they have no idea they're living in water. In fact, there was a really funny YouTube video that someone sent me a couple weeks ago where there is 3 goldfish, 2 young goldfish and 1 older goldfish in a bowl, and the older goldfish swims by and he says to the 2 younger goldfish, "How's the water, boys?" And then the little goldfish says, "What's water?" And I feel like we have that same experience. So thanks for sharing how you found out about me and Jaspr, and we've been able to collaborate together since. But my background was a lot different. I actually started in the wildfire restoration, mold remediation, and flood space. So when California was on fire, we would fly out there and restore and clean homes so people could move back home. If people had large toxic mold events, we were the ones who would come in, test the air, test the materials, gut the house, rebuild it, clean it up. And I was in one particular fire in Fort McMurray, Alberta, way up in northern Canada. It was the biggest fire ever in Canadian history, and the air quality after the fire was so bad. So we would go in and we would detox the entire home. But then what happened was, about a week after we detoxed this one home, we remediated it, we checked the air, it was all good. We got a call from the mom. Her name was Tanya. They had a little baby, and they called and said, our baby's in the hospital. And we're like, huh? That doesn't make any sense. We checked the house, we cleared it. Well, what happened was we went back to the house and we did the air quality test again, and she was right. The air quality was toxic off the charts. And we're like, what the heck happened here? So turns out, after a really big wildfire, air quality can stay contaminated for several months. It gets into the soil, it gets into the insulation. It's in the whole ecosystem. It's not just it passes through town, then it's gone. So we would restore and remediate the house, but then the air quality, where does your indoor environment get air from? Outside. So the house would get recontaminated yet again, and I called Tanya's insurance company and I said, hey, what should we do? The air quality in Tanya's house is very contaminated again. I propose that we wait about a month, 6 weeks, until the ambient air is clean again, retest, and then they can move back at home. Insurance said, not a chance. The check is on the way to you guys. They already signed off. Our work here is done. And I'm like, whoa, I have 2 young kids. What do you mean our work here is done? We got to do something about this. We have a mutual client who now has a huge problem on their hands. So what we did is we left our giant commercial industrial air scrubbers in her house. Took about 3 of them, and within about 3 or 4 hours, the air quality was good. It was back to normal. So what we did is we left the commercial air scrubbers there for about 3 months. Now these things are big. They look something between a photocopier and a subwoofer, and they're effective, but they're also really loud and really ugly. So in a toxic situation, it was appropriate to have a machine like this. But when this started to happen, Tanya is just the most, it's one example of many, but a lot of people would get their homes cleaned and then they would get sick again. And then I learned more and more about wildfire smoke and smoke contamination. And we're not talking campfire s'more smoke here. When thousands of homes burn down, the cars burn, the homes burn, the paint, the WD-40, all the chemicals in the house become part of this toxic soup. And this is not just your regular campfire smoke that you're used to. So what we did is I'm like, hey, we can't keep using all of our industrial machines at past customers' jobs. We're running out of equipment, and we need new equipment for new homes. So I went to Home Depot, went to Best Buy, I bought about 6 or 7 different air purifiers, put them back in Tanya's house, and within about 6 or 7 hours, the air was bad again. I thought if we got 6 or 7 small consumer air purifiers, that would do the trick. Not to remediate it, but to at least keep it at a reasonable level. I was wrong. So this kind of was the beginning of my awareness of, hey, the machines that we're using for mold and commercial jobs are not the same stuff that we're buying at the store. So an analogy I like to use now is most little air purifiers are kind of like trying to use a kettle to heat your bathtub. Kettles heat water, awesome. 4 cups of tea. You can't fill your bathtub with the kettle because as fast as you can pour hot water, it's going to cool down. So it's an effective water heating machine, but it's not large enough for the job. The same way your water heater can't heat your swimming pool and your golf cart can't pull your boat. Sometimes size does matter. So this kind of was the beginning of my journey of realizing, whoa, this restoration work I'm doing, it's often for nothing. We go and we decontaminate homes, they get recontaminated. There's pollution in cities, there's all kinds of stuff. You know, your house gets remediated from mold. There's mold all over your house. The only reason that a mold clearance test ever passes is because they had giant air scrubbers running for 3 days before they took the test. If you go in a week later, there's mold again. So I'm like, I don't think this is the way that I can have the most impact here. So I basically set out on this journey to travel the world, go to the cities like Beijing and Mexico City and all over the world where the air quality was the worst, to see what they were doing in other parts of the world. And I at first tried to create a whole home HVAC filtration system, but it was so ineffective, and I so badly wanted it to work because it would have been such a beautiful silver bullet. Install it into your furnace. While it heats and cools your air, it will also filter your air. I was wrong, because your furnace only runs, you want your furnace to run minimally, to heat and cool. It's not designed to filter. So if you put a really aggressive filter on there, first of all, it chokes the airflow dramatically. So now your actual furnace and air conditioner are way less effective. You will burn out the motor, and ideally your furnace fan is only running 20-30% of the time. So when it's not running, you're not cleaning the air in your home. So I'm like, okay, let's go back to the drawing board here. And I kind of think about it like a Sonos. You back in the day, you'd get one really big speaker, and it would either be way too loud and the bass would be really annoying in one room, and you couldn't hear it in any other room. You could just feel the obnoxious bass. Along came Sonos, where you could have a reasonable amount of volume in every room through a decentralized home system. So I kind of went from the restoration and the air quality consulting side and realized there's just not a good solution that looks pretty, works good. So this kind of just was the beginning of my journey into getting into air filtration and moving from the consulting side and the service side to the product solution side, because now I can actually, if I see a problem, I'm now empowered to do something about it. So now I like to create relationships with health experts who are working with patients all the time, because whose doctors ever recommended them to buy an air purifier? You go to the allergist and they give you allergy shots. And they don't want to hear about solutions that actually clean the air. It's not really good for their bottom line. I try to relate with the allergy industry. I'm sure there's a few allergists out there. If someone out there that knows a holistic allergist, please tell them to call me, because I haven't found one yet. So now I like to speak at places like this and go on podcasts and make friends like Ben, just to get the word out there. If we can increase air awareness and air consciousness just a little bit to have people thinking about air the same way they think about food and water, then it was really worth it to be here today.
I love the story. Yeah, give him a round of applause. It's a great passion.
Thanks, guys.
This is a biohacking event. And one of the things I think that is really important to understand, I'm going to lecture a little bit about this tomorrow at 11 a.m. But I want you to envision that in my hands here, in the right hand, I have a bottle of water filled to the top. Just envision that. In my left hand, another bottle of water, let's say halfway full. The bottle of water filled to the top, I can't really shake it that much. If I did, what's going to happen? It's going to spill. Meaning, the person whose stress bucket is so full, and you try to shake it, you try to do all these biohacks you're hearing about, cold plunge, sauna, red light therapy, they're all great, don't get me wrong, but if you got a bucket full, you're going to shake it, you're going to get symptoms and wonder, why is it that this person can do a 4-minute plunge and I do 10 seconds and I get a panic attack, right? So if your bucket is full, you can't really apply too many stressors. But if that bucket is half full or a quarter full, you could start doing more of these stressors, fasting, keto, etc. I believe, and I think Mike would agree with me, that what we breathe is arguably the fastest thing that will fill up that stress bucket, which is cool because when you could deplete that stress bucket, you could do more biohacks, you could apply more stressors, and you could feel good while you do it. So the question I want to ask you here, Mike, is, if we were to go inside of the average person's household and grab their carpet from their living room and test what's on there, what are some of the contaminants that are filling up that stress bucket?
So forget the carpet. Let's just talk about a sample of the air.
The air, okay.
The carpet's going to be everything that's in the air, but more. When you talk about air, if we test the air in an average bedroom, we're looking at about 800,000 particles floating around between 0.3 microns and 10 microns in size. Teeny tiny particles that we can't see with our eye. What are those things? We're talking about pollen, mold, dust mites, insect parts. Every breath we're taking right now, we are breathing a lot of insect parts. It's just a part of reality.
Yum.
Luckily, our bodies are pretty good at filtering out most things. So pet dander, your neighbor 7 doors down that's doing a renovation and cutting drywall on their front door, your other neighbor's barbecue. You think about your air has an isolated situation like your house. That's not the case. We all share this planet together. Your primary environment is your bedroom and your house. And then the outside is your secondary environment. And I say that because the average American spends 95+% of your time inside. So if that is your real environment, and your bedroom is 1/3 of your life. So those are some of the things that you're breathing, and water is an easier problem to tackle because the water comes through a singular pipe in your home. So if we put one filter on that pipe, we can have a whole home water filter, we can do a shower head filter, you can do a faucet filter. It's a singular input. Air is a little bit sneakier. You don't have a singular input for air. It comes in through your vents. It comes in through your attic. It comes in through your windows, through your doors, through every crack and crevice. So you kind of need a more holistic, decentralized air cleaning solution to tackle that problem. Another example, I really like the cup analogy, by the way. I feel like that really, really resonates. And I created Jaspr for wildfire smoke. I would have never guessed in a million years I would be talking at a biohacking conference. Not a chance. We designed it specifically for the situation I told you about, wildfire smoke. I figured when California's on fire, let's go there, let's turn on the ads, let's get people a really good air purifier for wildfire smoke. We are getting ready to launch the summer of 2020. Well, COVID happened first. And then next thing you know, we were selling to doctors and dentists because they needed a really efficacious and efficient air filter to get back to business safely. So I never thought we would land in medical. And then they would rave about it because it was a marketing tool for them to get patients and staff to come back and feel good about working. And then patients started to say like, whoa, can I get this for my house? My kid has asthma, my kid has allergies. Do they make these for the home? And that began our journey of finding ourselves purchasing them for everyday use. So to build on that cup analogy, the thing I'm most excited about, so 90% of people when they do our little quiz when they buy a Jaspr, it's usually to help with sleep and allergies. Maybe 80% now because just general health and wellness is really increasing. But if you think about allergies, you know, we get taught when we're growing up, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Put some hair on your chest. You know, it won't kill you, it'll toughen you up. With allergies, with mold, this could not be further from the truth. It beats you down. So a lot of people have never had seasonal allergies in their life. Then they move to Austin. They're like, hey, I'm fine. Next year, I'm fine. The next year, they are dying. Their allergies are horrible. The Uber driver who brought me here today said when he moved here from Mexico, his allergies went from horrible to non-existent, and his allergist said, wait 10 years. If you're good after 10 years, we'll know that you're good. And after about 2 or 3 years, his allergies started to really impact his life. And now he takes an allergy pill every single morning all year long. So what happens with allergies, because there's more pollen, when we test air in a bedroom or in a home, there's typically more pollen in your bed sheets than there is outside. Because the pollen comes in your house like the rest of the air, but it gets trapped in anything porous. Carpets, blankets, clothing, insulation, couches, anything that can absorb, anything that can get wet from water also absorbs air. So you know, your wood sealed table or metal surface, no problem. If it can't really absorb water, it won't absorb air either. But all these particulates get in our homes, in our pillows, in our sheets, in our carpets, and then when we're at nights sleeping, when our body is trying to rest and recover, consolidate memories, build muscle, all that good body stuff, it can't because it's in a constant state of defense. It's still be under attack from the mold and it's still under attack from the allergens. So you go out in the day and you're getting beat down. Then you come back into your house and you're still getting beat down. So when the most exciting transformation is when someone can dial in their air quality in their bedroom. I like to call the bedroom the sleep sanctuary, and I like to call sleep healing time. Because sleep, it has a negative connotation to me. It's like, I'm going dormant. I want to be productive. I love life. I like doing stuff. But when I'm sleeping, it's like, I'm turning off for the night. But when I reframed it to healing time, I'm like, ooh, yeah, like, let's go heal for 8 hours. Because when you're sick, you don't really heal during the day. The next day, you're like, I hope I wake up and I feel better the next day. So I like to think about this as healing time. And when you can change that sleep sanctuary to not breathing 800,000 particles by filtering that air by 99%. If you can have your temperature dialed in, have a good, clean bedding situation, comfortable bed, clean air. If it's dry, maybe get a humidifier. But when you can have the air quality dialed in your bedroom, so all night long, you're breathing pure air, what happens is that cup starts draining down. And then when you go back out into the world the next day, you're fine. So I thought when people with allergies started to buy Jaspers and invest in clean air in their home, I'm like, uh-oh, are they gonna feel great inside and then go outside and get shocked? But the entire opposite has ended up being the truth. Because they let that body rest and recover from the mold and the pollens and the allergens and the insect parts and the ragweed and all the pollution, your body is a tolerant, ever-evolving machine. So when it gets a chance to rest and recover, you would be shocked at how much it can endure out in the world. So I just wanted to build on that cup analogy, because yeah, on one hand, indoor air is 5 times dirtier than outdoor air. On the other hand, it's our own little bubble that we can control. We can't do that much about the outdoor air, but we can do so much about our own environments at home. So just wanted to build on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's perfect to pick up from that. With our environment, we understand how important it is. 95% of people spend their time indoors. I didn't even realize it was that high. You might have
95% of your time is
spent inside. The average person gets about 7 minutes worth of sunshine per day, so it kind of relates to that. What are some practical things for those watching here? And then we'll get into some of the air purifying machines and the pros and cons of the ones out there, and then Jaspr. But before that, what are some of the things we can do? You mentioned a few things, humidifier, but I've heard things like, okay, take off your shoes before you walk into the house. What are your thoughts on that? Having the HVAC fan on instead of auto. What are your thoughts on, let's start with
That's my favorite thing in the world.
Okay, talk about both of those.
You know, investing in a thing, that's great. What's even better when you don't have to invest in anything and you can get some easy wins when you go home. The next time you walk in your door, a bunch of wins, easy wins. So a few big ones in no particular order.
Give us the wins, Mike, come on.
Here's the wins. So I'll start with a little story. When I was living in Kelowna, British Columbia a few years ago, the carbon dioxide in my bedroom, for context, the outdoor carbon dioxide is about 400. Inside a home is about 600 to 800, unless it's super stuffy. As it goes over 1,000, brain fog, fatigue starts kicking in. Over 1,500, when you know that feeling when you're like, I want to go outside and get a breath of fresh air, and you go outside, you're like, that's not fresh air. That's just the regular air. Our indoor air is so bad that we think the outdoor polluted air is this magical stuff. It's not. So some easy wins you can get. So in our home in Kelowna, our CO2 was starting at 600-700, and it was getting over 3,000 at night. This is like some evacuate the building type levels. Why?
Wow.
We didn't have a forced air furnace. We had baseboard heaters, and we had like those heat pump, split ductless style units in each room. So we would close our door at night so the cats wouldn't come in. I was mouth breathing at the time. This was before I discovered nose breathing. And a lot of CO2 was being created and had nowhere to go. So that CO2 was building, and it wasn't getting ventilated at all. So it was going over 3,000. And I was sleeping 10 hours a night and waking up exhausted, like a log. All I had to do, at first I started cracking my window, but I was British Columbia. We had wildfire smoke, and it was cold. That wasn't the sustainable option. So I kept my bathroom fan on in the ensuite. Just that little trick of leaving the bathroom fan in the ensuite kept our CO2 at about 900.
Wow.
So instead of going from 600 to 3,000, it would stay at about 900. I was sleeping 8 hours a night and waking up fresh. So CO2 is something that no air purifier can filter. That's carbon dioxide. That's what we create every single time we breathe. Oxygen in, CO2 out. So for that, there are quite a few different CO2 sensors and monitors. They're usually about $150. You can get them on Amazon. I use one called the Aranet 4, but there's a handful of others. They're great. They're portable. You can put one in your bedroom to see the CO2 at night. You can put it in your car. Often when you get exhausted on a road trip, if you have that recirculate mode in a car, your CO2 can get to 3,000 in your vehicle. So you're always like opening your window for fresh air. No, what you're doing is you're opening your window to dump the CO2 so you can feel fresh again. So bathroom fans can be huge. If you find that your general CO2 in the home is quite high, especially homes weren't really engineered for a bunch of people to live in them. They were designed to be cheap, built quickly, roof over your head. There was no builders and architects and home developers that were sitting around a table saying, let's make the healthiest home possible. They're like, how fast can we build it? How much can we charge per square foot? Let's scrape the earth, let's cut down the trees and build a subdivision. I would like to help by creating awareness, the consumer, all of us, can start demanding a healthier home. And if the CO2 is getting too high, you can actually, some range hoods above your stove are pretty good. And if fan speed 1 is generally not too loud, just by keeping that on fan speed 1, huge win. If the climate allows for it, if you can open your windows when you're cooking, another massive, massive win. So those are 3 big ones. Taking your shoes off at the front door, huge. So numerous studies on this. I'm not going to quote a particular one because if you Google it, there's hundreds. 95+% of shoes, when tested, have fecal matter on them. Because you go outside, dogs poo outside, we get that on our shoes, we come inside, we walk around our carpets, then we vacuum those carpets, our kids play on those carpets. Not a good idea. So that's a big one. If you have a dog or a cat, grooming them is a good idea. If you have a cat, often cat litter is actually what's making you sick, not the cat itself. So if you look at the MSDS, like the ingredients list of cat litter, the laundry list of chemicals is off the chart. And then little kitty uses that litter box. If you have an air sensor in a 4,000 square foot house, within a minute or two of your furnace running, the whole home is covered in that microdust. So that's a situation where you can upgrade your cat litter to a pellet-based litter. then you have a new problem and you need to kind of create a little obstacle course so it doesn't track around your house. So that's another big win based on your circumstances. Also, make sure your fans are working. Do a little Kleenex test, hold it up to your range hood, hold it up to your bathroom fan, make sure they're actually pulling air. A lot of the time, those things aren't even working anymore. So those are a couple quick, easy wins right off the bat that are very CO2 based. The cooking one is more particulate based. And if you are cooking, people think it's just bacon that creates particles in your air. So when you have proteins and high heat, you get something called PAH, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. This is the same thing that we're dealing with huge wildfire smoke events. This is the same thing that gets emitted in your air when you're cooking dinner at home. High heat plus protein equals PAH, and all kinds of off-gassing gets created when you cook. But even asparagus with olive oil, it doesn't mean it's super harmful, but like, when did we start even cooking inside, as a civilization? We only created this word outside probably fairly recently. We used to live outside, roof over our head. Then we created these little airtight Tupperware boxes that we call home that keeps all the air trapped in, and now we cook in there. So when you cook in there, all those particles stay in your house. So like I said, opening windows, if you can cook outside, barbecue more. I know this isn't like a super refined checklist, but if you can implement even one of these things, I think you'll notice some huge changes in your air, your health, your life right away. And if anybody out there tracks their sleep with Whoop or Oura or Fitbit or any sleep trackers, when you dial in your air, your sleep score is just going to be a massive improvement, because all of a sudden you're not going to be breathing mold, you're not going to be breathing pollen. So that's just a couple easy wins. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, no, those are great practical tips. I hope you all wrote those down. Yeah, fantastic tips. Yeah. On the topic of the carbon dioxide, so back to the story with Ryan Blazer. When he came over, and he had the air quality meter machine, whatever it's called, and he's showing me all the VOCs, he's showing me the carbon dioxide levels, and our levels, I believe it was 1100, which is high, right? Higher than we want. And here was the second issue with us. We were living right behind these preserves, mangroves. In Florida, there's a lot of mangroves and preserves. So he opened up that back door, Ryan did, and he's like, oh, what's that smell? Because hydrogen sulfide is that sort of sulfur, rotten egg sort of smell, and it's when you're in mangroves and preserves, it kind of smells like that. So he smelled that, and he's like, let me test the hydrogen sulfide levels right outside that townhouse. It was off the charts. It was beyond the upper limit of what's considered safe. So we had a situation, Mike, where we wanted to open up our windows to lower those carbon dioxide levels and help the house breathe, but the outside environment was just as toxic. So we had just moved in, 4 months, built out the studio. My fiance had our beautiful office, and it was very difficult, but we said we're leaving this place. Like, we completely left that townhouse and found another place that didn't have that same problem. And it's a pain in the butt to have to pick up and move. It's a pain in the butt to deal with mold. And I'm not saying you have to do that. That was our situation. But you do the best you can to the current level of your awareness. If we would have stayed there, I would have got the brain fog. My fiance's symptoms would have progressed. What would have happened to our pets? And what is interesting, I told my fiance, we got to move. And she's like, there's no way, you're overreacting. And I said, look at what it's doing to Anya, our cat. And she's like, oh yeah, we got to move. So sometimes if you use the pet, people love their pets more than they do themselves, which is a sad thing sometimes. And she was motivated once we brought in the pet in the conversation. So we moved to the new place. We have the 3 Jaspers there. Mike flew in. We did a podcast on my Metabolic Freedom podcast. So let's get into the conversation of air purifying machines now.
Before that, man, on the note of pets, it's not exactly pets, but I have 2 little girls. They're 2 and they're 4. And
they're not pets.
They're not pets, but they're little things that you often love more than yourself.
Yeah.
So that is the commonality here. So everybody, if you have a kid or grandkids or anything, there's these products. There's a really popular brand called Diaper Genie. They're the most known, but baby's got a diaper. So you get these diaper pails that are supposed to be airtight. They're supposed to put the diaper in there. So back in 2020, our daughter was like 4 or 5 months old, and my wife Rachel was using this pail. I'm like, Rach, it stinks like poo in here. And if it smells like poo, it's because it is poo. I'm not sure that this diaper pail is working as it's advertised. I think maybe we should take the diapers directly outside. Rachel's like, no, you're not the one who does the diapers all day. That's way too much work. I'm like, fine. I think the rite of passage is tonight, let's put the diaper pail in our bedroom and see how we like to sleep with a poop pail in our room. And she's like, no way. Got you. So that was the last day that Aria ever slept with the diaper pail in her room. And if you test the particulate in a nursery for the particle size of bacteria, it's quite high. We breathe 17 to 20,000 times a day. Babies breathe about 60,000 times a day, and they're not designed to filter air as effectively as us. They're still developing that. So it's so funny. We do everything we can to keep our kids safe. We got all the baby proofing and all the gadgets and the gates and the fences and watching out for the sharp edges. Meanwhile, they have a bunch of toys that are filled with molds, with brand new painted nursery with an off-gassing crib, and to top it off, a bucket full of poop. So anyway, I'm glad that worked, and Aria is now sleeping with clean air. And the answer, Jaspr is not the answer for this. It's not using that pail, getting those things out of your room. But just on the note of, sometimes it's something that you love more than yourself, and realizing, I'm not sleeping with that thing. Yeah. And the funniest thing is, people usually put their kids in first, but usually when they buy a Jaspr, they usually buy one or two to get started. Typically in the kitchen living room space, so it can handle all the cooking and the cleaning particles, and then another one in their bedroom. And then we usually ask, what about your kids? Because usually with almost everything else, they put their kids, somehow when it comes to air, people don't put their kids first. So yeah, I'm happy to talk air stuff. And
if you're following a low carbohydrate keto diet or carnivore diet, this is one of the most important tips. I see a lot of people who struggle with keto and carnivore, and the reason they struggle is because they are losing too many electrolytes. They're becoming mineral depleted. Every cell in your body needs minerals to function, to produce energy, which helps you burn fat and feel good. My favorite minerals and electrolytes are from Beam Minerals. These are fulvic and humic compounds that are bioavailable, that have over 70 minerals in them. It tastes like water. They're carnivore friendly. Let me explain why. There are no anti-nutrients in them. It does not break a fast. As a matter of fact, it could support your fasting window, and it's been a game changer for my health, and I recommend it to all my students. Head over to beamminerals.com. Use the coupon code AZADI at checkout, my last name, AZADI at checkout, to get a nice discount. Beamminerals.com, coupon code is AZADI.
Just to be clear, there's a lot of good products out there, a lot. Our product is the big difference. It's bigger. So when we were using those fire, flood, mold, industrial scrubbers, they were huge, they were loud, they were ugly. When I went to Best Buy and Home Depot to try to find a more cost-effective, size-effective solution, they were small, but they didn't do anything. So we had golf carts and we had tractor trailers, but where was the Denali? Where was the Yukon? Where was the SUV? Where was something that could bring your kids, be safe, and look good while doing it? So I realized there was that gap, that there's not really a machine that I could recommend to our clients that is something that you would be proud to put in your living room. Another customer named Angela, when we went back to her house in Fort McMurray after the fire, her kids were a little bit sick too. The air scrubber was unplugged. I'm like, Angela, what are you doing? Your kids are sick, your air is bad. She's like, Mike, I know, but it's so loud and it's so ugly. And people care about their health, but not that much. If you add noise pollution to the equation, now you have a new pollution in your life. It wasn't really an elegant solution. So I'm like, I don't care how long this takes. We're gonna create something we're not thinking about making the cutest air purifier with the best app. We were thinking about making something inspired by the mold and the fire and the flood air scrubbers, but in a more elegant design. So there are cheaper solutions out there that even clean the air just as good, but they're either ineffective or they're loud and they're ugly. So we tried to create something that looked good, that was really high quality sensors, made out of steel, and to those who it's right for, no explanation, no sales pitch required. But I would rather somebody crack their door, crack their window, buy 4 furnace filters at Costco or Home Depot and make a DIY filter than feel like this is a black or white situation. It's better to have something. The biggest change you can make in anything in your life is 0 to 1. So we sort of sit at that intersection of high performance and beautiful. But I just want to always explain that this is no Jaspr commercial. I just want people to learn more about air. So we can get into what makes it different. And by the way, we can do some Q&A.
Yeah, I was thinking.
If anybody has questions, there's 9 minutes left.
Yeah,
so if there's questions, we would love to hear them. We can.
Yeah, we'll continue talking, but there's a mic there in case anybody wants to ask questions. Yeah, I see somebody getting up now. So if you want to do that, we could start with that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello, I'm also using Artenet to manage my carbon dioxide in the loop. I'm a nomad, I travel, so every month or week I'm changing Airbnbs or hotels, and according to that device, I can change, open the window or something and fix that. However, all these other stuff you guys are talking about, like other particles, mold, whatever else, other poisonous stuff, how can I know if the place I'm staying has that I'd like to do? Is there another level of premium device that is travel friendly that I can use? Anything you would recommend for someone who's traveling all the time?
So first, a very unscalable answer is lately when I go to Airbnbs and I go to hotels, I bring my like $5,000 air quality testing kits and I test the air, and then I throw in my Jaspr and I test it again. And I'm going to start to publish the do not stay and the highly recommended list of Airbnbs and hotels that I go to.
Please, that's a brilliant idea.
This is not very scalable,
Yeah, me
but
too.
it will be small and mighty. Unfortunately, there isn't a great option. I struggle with the exact same thing. So on what you can do for travel, it's not the perfect solution, but I would rather have practical imperfect solutions than look at everything as perfect and then beat it down. These aren't perfect solutions. Often in a hotel room or an Airbnb, especially hotels, it's very dry. So you can actually make a DIY humidifier by taking a towel, getting it wet in the bath or in the sink, or if you want to go to the next level, you could buy filtered water and wet the towel with that, and then put it on the vent, because that makes a natural humidifier because the airflow will be passing through the wet towel and creating a bit of humidity. Humidity is helpful not just to increase the relative humidity, but it also makes dust mites fall to the floor. It's a less conducive breeding ground for bacteria and viruses. So humidity is like one of those simple tricks and hacks. When it comes to air filtration, the reason we only have one model is because small units are rather ineffective. So literally when I travel, if I can, I bring my Jaspr. If I can't, I'll often go to like Walmart or Amazon or something and buy something. But honestly, it's a big problem, and part of raising awareness here is I believe hotels, especially now with how bad air is and allergies and wildfire smoke, what I intend to do is help getting programs created where the hotels, for $2 a day, hotels can have Jaspers in every single room, and then the hotels and the Airbnbs themselves, just like, filtered water would be a perk, and high-speed Wi-Fi, I think, has consumer awareness increases. Like during COVID, there was a checkbox for like safety protocols. What about just clean air protocols? So unfortunately, it's a hard one to deal with yourself. It's great that you're monitoring the CO2, cracking doors, windows. I think you're doing everything you can. Some of those little air filters that like blow directionally at your face, conceptually that should help you in your sleep. It might not clean the air a ton, but at least the air stream hitting your face would be optimal. And then when I travel, I actually look at the air quality outside and sometimes base my location off of outdoor air. So sorry for the imperfect answer, but that's how I've been navigating it.
What humidity level we target?
Between 45% and 45 and 55 is the optimal zone. As you get to 35% or less, that's when we have issues with ozone and viruses. As we get over 60%, microbial growth, mold, mycotoxins start happening. So 45 to 55 is optimal, and 40 to 60 is reasonable.
And what do you think about fans in the road spinning while spinning?
Airflow is great. More air, more circulation. 1 CFM of air out means 1 CFM of air in. So fans increase airflow, increase ventilation. I think it's a good upgrade.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm from Louisiana. We bought an older home, and I was just wondering about the air ducts, the ducts in this attic. That have been there forever. Is that a possibility there's mold in there? How dirty and generally do those things get?
They get pretty nasty, and Louisiana is pretty humid. So I'll try to do some rapid fire answers here to do my best we can. We have 4 minutes and 15 seconds left. So UV is quite effective. UV does not clean air, so any air purifier with UV, very ineffective. In fact, it can create ozone. But UV, because think about UV like soap, it needs a certain amount of contact exposure time to be effective. So the UV, like for surfaces, in a water tank, in an HVAC unit, will stop mold from growing, but the air passes through way too quickly that it's not able to clean the air. So, getting your ducts cleaned, putting a UV light in your HVAC system would be 2 easy wins you could get. And then I always tell people, like, if you are investing in an air filtration system, great time to do a deep clean of your house, get your ducts cleaned, and kind of start fresh. So hopefully that helps.
Thanks.
Such great suggestions and things I might have thought about. I've got my water dialed out and not my air. Just you can't see here, cool water signs. I guess what I struggle with, and live in Houston, in high rise, my 4-story brand new off gas and all that kind of stuff. I know my air is horrible, in Houston it's horrible. And when across from me, they're building a 42-story. So I am like surrounded by particulates. I have herbs on my balcony. I don't even want to eat them. I feel like, and I like to keep my doors open. I'm from the West Coast, I like the fresh air. But now I'm from the fresh air, it's very humid, stagnant, and so I'm now sealing myself up in my space, which is about 1,700 square feet. So I am bringing with us to Jaspr. I had a great conversation with and he suggested 2, but I'm thinking I might just start at 1.
One's a great place to start.
So should I position it between, should I first of all close off everything, position it,
Put it in your bedroom. Put it in your bedroom, and during the day, keep your bedroom door open. That way at night, it's as effective as possible in the area that matters most. And during the day, it will contribute to the clean air in the whole place. And if noise is not an issue, keep it on fan speed 2. And smart mode's great, but if you keep it on fan speed 2 in your bedroom, it'll help with the whole space.
And real quickly, I know we're time, but I appreciate that you touched on that you can go out and come back and be, we're going to be out with the buckets with less full.
That's right.
Because I live on walk my dog on the wide way. I come back, I have to shower, I wash my hair before I go to bed. It comes out my skin and itching. And so I just feel like going outside, coming back in, am I in the day to with great thing?
I will say, come to our booth and we'll talk more.
Okay, thank you.
And feel free, anybody after this, me and Justin, he's been an air quality expert for 8 years. We don't have a sales department or a customer service department. We only have an air education department. So if anybody has specific questions about their house, their mold, their environment, their pets, come see it at our booth. Jaspr or not, we're happy to talk to you guys all day long.
And the last question, before we get to that, I just want to add one more thing. So initially I bought one Jaspr, but I had, I believe it was 2,400 square feet. So I would leave it in my bedroom at night, and then I would physically just pick it up and take it to my office downstairs until I got the 3. So that was another option. It's not that heavy, it's easy to kind of transfer. It's another option for you. But go ahead, last question.
I actually live in the mountains in Arizona, and I live in the woods, and I found out I go to pine drink. So you can actually see the pollen most of the year laying on the deck.
Yeah.
So is it better to, because I love to open the windows, is it better to open the windows and get fresh air, or keep the house closed up and keep the pollen out as much?
I like a hybrid solution for that. So that's actually a time where using bathroom fans or range hoods and mechanical ventilation, that'll still exhaust air out and bring air in. But instead of opening your windows all the way, crack a few windows and then still have air filters running too. That's what I do here in Austin, which also has high allergies. So I would do a bit of a hybrid. So come by and we can chat more about it.
And just one last thing, is it everybody I know, they never open their windows, and they think that they're keeping their allergies healthy by these closed-up houses, so that would be the worst.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
And then last thing I wanted to note, something I'm even more proud of than the product, Jaspr comes with a lifetime warranty. So the way it works is we ship a new filter every 6 months, and if the Jaspr breaks, which it can happen 2-3% of the time, we ship a brand new unit right away, no questions asked. You don't need to keep your box, you don't need to keep your receipt. You take the new one out, you put the old one in, we give you a prepaid shipping label, and we schedule a UPS to pick it up at 9 a.m. the next day. I hate, as a consumer, having these warranties that I don't even know how to use. They make me feel like a liar, and I don't have my box, I don't have my receipt. We don't do any of that stuff. And I'm almost more proud of that, and that was because of how we were kind of born during COVID. Just like, we were a need, not a want. And we have, last thing is, it's called the life-changing guarantee. So if you put it in your house and you don't feel way better, you're not sleeping better, you don't see it working when you're cooking, when you're cleaning, anytime in the first 60 days, we'll take it back, we'll give you back all your money. I'd rather people invest their money in the things that matter most. and it wouldn't be a very good business for us to not have lifelong customers. So I just wanted to, there's my little Jaspr pitch.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Jaspr. I bought all my machines. He did not gift it to me, just to be clear there. I even love my Jaspr so much. I know we're out of time, but I bought my mom a Jaspr machine this past Christmas. It's sitting in her bedroom every single night. So I've used a lot of air purifying machines. This one is top notch, and I think I'm doing, what, $200 off?
It's 20% off. We call it 200.
Okay.
If people buy more, we stack discounts. So if they buy 2, it's 10% off. 3 is 15. 4, it's 20. But if they get the 20% off, that bundle, so that's as much as 40% off.
It's awesome.
And then we give filter discounts as well. So yeah, the idea here is to make a premium solution that is affordable. It used to be $2,000 when we sold to doctors and dentists. Then we got it to $1,400, and as of this January, we got it down to $999. And with all these discounts, it can be as cheap as like $650. So we're doing our best. We'll make things as affordable as we can.
It's awesome.
And that's it.
Everybody, Mike, give him a big round of applause.
Ben.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
If you enjoyed that conversation, you're gonna love this recent interview with world-renowned thyroid expert on why you might not feel well, and it has to do with that thyroid.
They have a full-blown glandular issue, but I'd say the vast majority of people who have any of those conditions have a level of tissue hypothyroidism. That does not mean that we should rush in with medications and treat these people. That's